Hello, dear friends, my dear audiences. Welcome to the show. Jack Xiao's hosting with the East-West show under G&E TV. At G&E TV, we pay lots of attention about the most important at-stake social issues. For example, 3 weeks ago, we had this interview with a wonderful individual who is the author of this wonderful book. I'm still keeping, because I finished reading, I'm still keeping it, and I would be willing to loan it to anybody who wants to read. Oh, by the way, if you want to buy, of course, there is a way to buy. We'll let you know how. Opal Singleton is her name. She is a book writer who works with law enforcement, and who spends all her time in the whole issue against the human trafficking.
Right.
So once again, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Jack. I appreciate it.
Thank you. The reason I have you come here for the second time is that right after the exposure of the first interview, followed by the publication of an article about this conversation on our magazine, which is City News Weekly, the response was good. Was tremendous. Good. And lots of people kind of like to be awakened by the call. Mm-hmm. They used to say that, well, they used to think that we do not have a problem that strong. Right. Now that like eye-opener, they say, oh my God, is that right? Right. And there are lots of things they do not know in details. Mm-hmm. And by the way, also, accidentally, we mentioned at the end of last show that we haven't gone into any details yet. So that's why we're here. Okay. So please feel comfortable going deeper into the problem, even though it's a sad story. Okay. Okay. We understand the situation is bad. Mm-hmm. And the last time when I mentioned that in the magazine article about 4 of the kids being boys, mm-hmm. 1 out of 4 of the kids molested being the boys, that doesn't mean only girl problem. Right. However, they do not understand the overall picture, the bad picture, how bad it is. Can you please give us a summary of not necessarily into details, which we will do later in the later segments. Sure. So as a picture, general picture, can you please describe it? Because I have lots of questions to ask. Okay, great. I prepared this much.
All right. Okay. Well, surprisingly, mm-hmm. it is a major problem in the United States. Mm-hmm. Most people think this is only overseas, and it is overseas, but it is in the U.S., and quite frankly, a lot of it is because of our wealth. Mm-hmm. The fact that we are able to give our young people these devices everywhere, that mm-hmm. makes a big difference. Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. And so we are seeing a whole phenomena that's going mm-hmm. on here. A lot of it has to do with gangs. Mm-hmm. We have gangs that are driving this. We have mm-hmm. gangs that are joining relationships with other gangs. For instance, you're seeing Asian gangs that will now work with African American gangs and work with the Latino gangs. And it's gangs using social media. And then it is just regular predators that use social media to groom innocent kids. And so that kind of is the layout of how it works. Then if you start to look at it, it's more than just human trafficking. In the United States, especially in California, our laws say that if you're under 18 and you're engaged in commercial sexual exploitation, that's a word we would normally think of as prostitution, mm-hmm. that you are in fact a victim.
Sex exploitation.
Yes, okay, that we would normally call prostitution. Mm-hmm. Now, several states across America say that if you're under 18, that is human trafficking. Uh-huh. And most of the kids that are now being caught up into prostitution had no idea where they were headed. Mm-hmm. But there's more than just prostitution. There's what we call sextortion and exploitation. Sextortion, and all of them are really serious. Sextortion is when, let's say your son is out there playing on a video game, and a girl comes into the chat room and they kind of hook up and they have a great time and everything's going good and they get all excited because, wow, a girl who plays World of Warcraft and she likes me. And he can't wait to get home from school so he can, kind of hook up with her. And he's all excited, and then one day she drops her naked photo on him. And he's like, whoa, what's this, you know?
Yeah.
And she's saying, hey, I gave you mine, I want yours. And he's like, no, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
and,
hesitate a little bit.
And then pretty soon she keeps pushing, and so he sends one of himself. He takes that picture and sends it off. And it turns out that she was really a guy. And
That's she, yes.
Yes, and this happens all the time. I had 8 leads last week. As you know, I work with law enforcement. I take leads on cases. And many of the times in those cases, it's guys. So it doesn't end there. I mean, I want you to think this out a minute. He sent a naked photo, and it turns out to be a pedophile that's on a child pornography ring, and that photograph goes out to tens of thousands of people. And all of a sudden, this young man has hundreds of people. Some of them want money. Some of them think they're in love with him. Some, want to come over and do some sex acts. Some are threatening to put it on his Facebook, or show it to the family, or show it to the school football team. And the kid is trapped. And that word is called sextortion, sex and extortion.
I see. And also another wake-up call that I hear from my audiences as respond was that we do understand that these kind of problems, either pedophiles or child molesters or even whatever, including raping, including prostitution, whichever, were problem or had been problem as early as history started.
Right.
Okay? So those are existing problem anyhow, anyway. Now, are we seeing a bigger picture, bigger offense, bigger problems because of the time, of digital time?
Absolutely.
Or is it because that we started to pay more attention, those problems seems to pop up?
Well, that's a great question, Jack. The truth is, it's all about access. I want to talk about the internet a minute. The internet is, well, let me first say that this is a unique generation in history.
You are right.
Because,
I agree. I totally agree, yes.
Because it's the first generation that has never not known the internet. Now, the older brothers and sisters knew the internet. We've been using the internet for probably 20 years now.
20-something,
But
25, yes.
they did not have these devices 24/7. Now, well, quite frankly, 87% of kids sleep with their phone. And 40% of the world is now connected by the internet. In fact, I just read a book recently that said that they expect the entire world to be connected to the internet by 2020. That's only 4 years away.
Oh, by the way, there is a news that I heard about 2 months ago that Google's preparing, well, they say anyway, I haven't proved that, to launch about 10 satellites that covers the whole global Earth, provide secure Wi-Fi and guaranteed Wi-Fi for every corner of the world, to every human being of the world.
Right, and they have Google Earth, so they can geo-track you where you're at. And so our world is fast changing. So back to your question here is this something new? You're absolutely right. Prostitution's been around forever.
Ever since.
But what we're seeing is the prostitution of our children in huge numbers. And the reason for that is that pedophiles, but especially gang members, have come together and they're using the internet to lure in kids who would never normally think about it. Think about this internet thing. Our kids now have access to this, and this generation has so much power, so much knowledge, but so much access. Then we have a generation of parents that are kind of technophobic. And so it gives the kid all the autonomy, all the power to be able to make decisions and reach out to people that you and I would never allow in our home. And I think this is a good time for me to talk about grooming and an idea of a fantasy relationship. What happens here, and the reason why my book is called The Grooming of America's Teenagers, is that grooming doesn't work like most parents think. You'll think, well, some creep will come in and make an offer, and my kid's smart, and they'll say, no, he's a creep, and it'll be over. But what will happen is the most common app is Kik, K-I-K, and they like to send instant messages. So this guy will send something funny and cute, and she'll say something funny and cute, and then they text and tweet, and the next thing you know, they're sharing an Instagram or YouTube, and then they're over on Facebook, and then, hey, let's play Xbox.
It's a gradual thing. It's a progressive thing.
And the insidious nature of this is mom and dad are saying, hey, don't talk to strangers, but they're not a stranger.
No stranger at all.
And think about this. They have a chance to build that trust and loyalty, and especially if they're playing a video game, which we'll get into depth in later. But what's interesting is that that's never had that advantage in the past. In the past, your child met a stranger, you saw them, and you'd say, you know, I don't like this guy, and he's not coming into our house. But now, your child's meeting lots of strangers, and many of these are people that you would never allow in your living room, and they're influencing your child. So that is kind of how it starts, and so they build a trust, and then pretty soon they begin to make an offer. Sometimes it looks like a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, and they'll sneak out and meet up with them. That one is just the most painful one for parents.
And lots of girls get killed that way.
Not just get killed, they get raped, you know, they get violated, they get taken away, they go missing. I run Million Kids Missing Kids to help a parent look for their child, because a parent should never have to look on a prostitution site for their child.
Yeah. My dear audience, today we're talking once again the big subject of human trafficking. Underneath the big title, there's lots of details to touch. Last time, when I had the honor to have my good friend Opal here talking about the issue, we felt that we started to draw a whole picture, an overall picture about the problem. Now with her again for the second time, and this is only the second, there's going to be the third or fourth, I know for sure, if you will, to talk about into all the details, even case examples, the case analysis, stuff like that. Let's take a very short moment out. When we come back, I have more questions to ask, starting from a definition. Hello, my dear audience. Welcome back to the show, especially when you happen to be somebody's parents, though. You are more welcome back to the show, because we're really talking about not everybody else, your kids. Could be you. With me today is my good friend, Opal Singleton. She is the writer of this wonderful book called Seduced. And the subtitle, the undertitle, is The Grooming of the America's Teenagers, which depicts a whole picture about the problems we are facing as versus our digital time. Our kids are easily groomed into these problems without their knowing, and without being strangers to each other. They are getting into troubles themselves. Life started changing at that very point you step in that door, right? And with her in the first segment, oh, by the way, she works with the law enforcement, and she's good. I see that very badge. I like it. All right. And the last segment, we drew a overall picture about how bad it is, and how this thing started. And we addressed the one point that it is the digital time that helps pushing the trend to a more devastating, the most devastating ever in history, to a stage like that. My question, like I said, starting from definition, when I heard the word prostitution, I feel some kind of offensive in it, because it sounds like to involve some kind of willingness of doing so. And yet, versus that, you're talking about another term called sexploitation. That sounds to be, to me, more acceptable. My question is, these two terms, are they your choices of words, or are they our law determinations?
Actually, they're law determinations, and this is getting a lot of visibility across the United States. What is happening is, this is not prostitution as usual. It changed.
No.
The reason it changed is, part of it was social media, but gangs have literally taken this over. And gangs are using social media, and quite frankly, drug cartels are using social media. And so what is happening is that they're accessing our children. and it's kind of a pretension. We don't realize that they are not the people they say they are. And so they'll build their trust, they sneak out to see them, and then what will happen is they begin to take them away. They break them. This is a really bad process. But
And starting at the point A, there is no willingness of being a prostitute at all.
they had no expectation of being
All
a
right, good,
prostitute.
good. All right.
Absolutely.
That's a serious point we want to make here. That you parents, like, well, of course, I'm a parent of somebody too, right?
Yeah.
So, well, it could be my kid, right? So things are that you don't want to just to think, oh, my kids are good. That they will never do the thing called prostitution,
Right.
right? Yet you know what they are doing, starting step by step, though.
Yes.
Going into is the door person, whereby they are sex exploited.
Yes, there's a process that kind of takes place there depending on who the person is that's trying to recruit you. And there's something of a broad range. Occasionally, a child is kidnapped, but very seldom. More likely, they're groomed, as we talked about. It's built up as a friendship. Now, sometimes it's a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, and then he will take her out and then begin to get her into sex work. Now, quite frankly, about 50 to 60% of kids in prostitution do come from broken families or foster kids or homeless kids. But we are seeing a big amount of regular kids that are tricked into this. So a boyfriend will talk her into, hey, let's just try it out a little bit. I need some money. You need to help me pay the rent. We're going to go into business together.
Or buy you a new cell phone or stuff like that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Get her nails done. It's amazing the number of kids that get involved because of that. Then the next thing, though, can be just that the girl will come on and actually meet another girl. 60% of our cases involve another girl. It'll be a girl that she meets on the internet or at school even, and some of the recruiting is taking place in schools.
That means that she started doing the human trafficking herself by recruiting others.
Absolutely. That is called a bottom girl in the business.
Bottom girl. All right.
She's a girl who started young into prostitution, and now she might be 17, 18, even 20, 22. And so she will befriend the girl. And this gets really, really bad. What will happen is that the girl, maybe she's taken to a party, she gets a little drunk and has some sex, and it's filmed, and they began to blackmail her into doing more prostitution.
Oh, I see.
Or maybe they will just simply turn her over to a gang. At this point, it gets really, really bad. I mean, they will break her.
So in other words, back to my question, though, the law does recognize
Absolutely.
Sex is exploitation, it's not a prostitution.
Absolutely. What happens, especially in several states across the United States, it says anyone engaged in prostitution under the age of 18 is automatically a victim. They're not charged with prostitution. We try to rescue them and get them some assistance.
Age limit is only one thing. On the other hand, a 19-year-old girl, for example, could be recruited into doing the same thing, could be exploited sexually, something like that, still doing the same thing, and you cannot define her as a prostitute, right?
Well, it depends.
Still the same thing.
The law will define her as a prostitute. However, there is a complete movement across the United States because of this epidemic, that where law enforcement, and I do train law enforcement, and where law enforcement is now understanding they also are a victim, but you have three elements to that legally. She has to prove that she was either forced into it, in other words, she's not free to go.
All right.
They'll put her in a motel and line her up with dates, and she can't get free. One of them is coercion. You're going to do this, or I'm going to kill your whole family. You're going to do this, or I'm
threat,
like, well, absolute threat, or you're going to do this so you don't get to eat. Kind of thing. And then the last one is fraud. You know, if she was tricked, she thinks she's going to be a model or a makeup artist or be in commercials, like, whatever the story is. And then all of a sudden she finds herself out there, and that is very, very common.
That's why your book called Seduced.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Seduced. Right?
And they never intended to be in it, and more important, they don't get free. And they don't get the money.
Very good.
That's
and lots of folks would automatically think, how about law enforcement? Are we enforcing it a stronger way, or are we what? And of course, the question is very simple, that does the law punish that in a special way or in a more severe way?
Right.
Okay, and that is a question most people will ask.
Right.
You know, it takes years after years to I mean prosecute some case.
Right.
Right. So unless we do something like.
Right. Law enforcement all across the United States are being trained. In fact, I just spent the last 2 days in Sacramento working on training programs with law enforcement. And I've trained law enforcement even in the Midwest, like Joplin and like that. Law enforcement all across the United States is starting to recognize this epidemic and be trained to treat the woman as a victim. More important, to go after the pimp and give them a very large sentence. That is one of the things that's happening. And then one of the things that's happening, and men need to hear this loud and clear, is this is not prostitution as usual. Right here in California, they're looking to make purchasing of sex a felony, not a misdemeanor. Right now it's a misdemeanor. And all across the United States, they're looking at that. But I think that one of the things men need to hear, more important, is that if the cartels, if the gangs will violate a 17, 18-year-old girl, then they'll think nothing of filming you with that 17 or 18-year-old girl, and for a few $1,000,
That
they won't
is
tell
a
the boss
crime
or the
too
wife.
already, and
Yes.
that itself, that
Right.
alone,
Right.
well, calls for severe punishment.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely.
Okay. We have a lot of bones to take. Right. Anyway, with my audiences, I really want to emphasize on this point that it is not a problem of the girl self being bad or the victim themselves being bad. They are naive kids.
That's right.
Like myself. I'm still a good one. And they are only trapped in because in this material world, there are lots of attractions.
Yes.
Right? There's more attractions than you can name.
Right.
There are lots of ways. So they are starting at a point of knowing nothing. They're totally benighted where they're heading to.
Right.
Yet, well, it is still might be too late before they realize. Okay. With my friend, a wonderful human being, I owe her a big appreciation on behalf of my audience and the readers of the book. While she is the one leading the trend, going strongly against the social problem, which is huge as versus the digital time. Right. Opal Singleton is her name. She works with the law enforcement. Let's take a short moment out. I keep going over time. Let's take a short moment out. When we come back, we'll still pick up from the law enforcement point, going into the digital time. And we have even something coming called virtual reality, the VR, stuff like that. And then we have to talk about the internet controls, the cyber policing or cyber whatever. If you have a police system that can kill Michael Brown, though, why don't you do the same thing on the internet? I'm sorry for that. You might not share the same opinion with me. We'll be right back. Hello, dear folks. Welcome back to the show. My dear fellow Americans, America, the future lies in the hands, upon the hands of our kids, because they are the one. What kind of kids they are, you look at them and they will tell you what kind of future you will have as United States of America, the great nation. So, well, you know, we have problems, and we have problems as early, you go back as early as history started, yet these problems versus the digital time gets fast growing, gets most developed into a social problem so large that I get involved, she gets involved, and we want you get involved. It is a human trafficking in the bigger term, and there's a subterms that we can go one by one. Back to the question at the end of the last segment, though, talking about the punishment by law enforcement. My personal feeling is that if you punish in a double effort way, or you triple the laws, or whatever, and of course, that will probably give them a lesson the predators, right? So what are the law enforcement do so far?
Well, first of all, most of the predators that are doing this are not afraid. You know, they're criminals, and this is what they do, and they're motivated by the money, and this is big, big money. Your average pimp in Los Angeles area will be worth nearly $1 million a year, and there are a lot of them, and so that's why the drug cartel got involved. So those people, I mean, we have all kinds of laws. They don't worry so much about the law. One of the
Especially when you offer them food, coffee,
Yes.
and even Nikes in prison, though.
Yes.
Well, they will just go there and enjoy the benefit.
Oh, absolutely, they get promoted. You know.
They get promoted.
So, but there's several things that are going on here that we need to look at, I think, from a standpoint of the fact that this is gang-driven and cartel-driven. So, looking at it as far as the law goes, this is a very difficult case to prosecute. I run a Facebook page called Million Kids, M-I-L-L-I-O-N, Million Kids Facebook page, and we post new cases every 3 or 4 hours. That's how often this is happening.
That is a website I visit. I've been visiting for the past 1 week and a half.
It's a great website. Susie Carpenter runs it, and she's just amazing. Anyway, but looking at all those cases, you can read them and you can comment on them. People go, well, he only got 6 years. He only got 9 years for, you know, holding this girl basically in prostitution for 3 years. Well, this is a very hard case to charge, quite frankly. For one reason, the victim, once they're put into prostitution, this is not like a girl who says, okay, I'll have sex 3 times a day and be happy with the income. First of all, she doesn't get the money. She is literally being exploited.
That's why it's called exploitation, yes.
Yes, she's doing this a lot more than 3 times a day. Some of these kids are forced in it 15, 20 times a day.
Oh, my God.
And so by the time that we recover that child, she's horribly psychologically abused.
Ruined.
We, law enforcement, recover. She's horribly psychologically abused. Plus, this is the cartel that's threatening her. She hasn't been able to get free. She's been gang raped. She's been beaten. She's been through all kinds of things. So she doesn't normally want to testify.
Yeah, sure. Let's concentrate on the punishment. So for a predator of that kind, though, do they get more than normal punishment or whatever? Do you have specific like a martial laws for a certain time period? Go for it and let's get them punished.
Yes, we have very strong sentences. The hard part is making the case. I want to finish that one thought. Not only is she taken advantage of, but they use cyber currency now, you know, bitcoins and that kind of thing. It's not traceable. It's totally anonymous. And so if she can't testify or won't testify, if you can't track the money, and now you're seeing the problems with the encryption of the phone, if we can't get the evidence out of the phone, it gets harder for us to get those long sentences. That's my point, is these cases are very hard to prove. Now, once we have all the elements, they can easily, we have one case right now, we have 130 open cases in Riverside County. We have one case where he's looking at life in prison. You know, but we have to be able to get all of that evidence.
Yeah,
and
I know.
These are hard cases.
I know that. Where I get confused by is the fact that we have a system that you have the sex predators or offenders punished almost forever.
Right.
For a mistake, some say if somebody pat on the butt of a girl, and this is what? Invasion. This is a criminal, right? And then the guy is labeled as a sex offender forever.
Right.
Even out of jail, he has to register or she has to register as a sex offender. That I agree. I can't doubt. Why do we have to go all the details with the online stuff? Those are the crimes committed in the real life.
Right.
But cyberly, when they do the same thing or even worse, why we have to wait? That is my question.
Actually, some of the laws for cyber have really been strengthened, which is a little bit of a concern. I will share with you on one side, and you know me, I want to get that bad guy, okay? But that's the business that we're in. And so, if, for instance, like Jared Fogle, that was just charged with child pornography. He was the subway individual that lost 200 pounds. Now he got 12 years in prison and for having paid sex with a minor. So that's reasonably good and something like that. Many of these cyber criminals that will exploit kids online can get 25 to 50 years. Some of them actually get longer than murder. And so the law is there getting the case to court in such a way we can win that case is the challenge.
You know, what you're saying is that the law is a frame.
Right.
On the wall. To put the picture in is the other.
That's
to
right.
make sure it fits
That's
is the other.
right. That's
you have
the
to
hard
cut,
part.
to trim, stuff like that.
Right.
You make sure it goes in
Right.
the frame.
And there's a lot of ways we can approach it. Think about it. They'll take a girl, they'll trick her. So you have cybercrime, you have drugging, because they almost always will drug the kid so that they don't try to get free. You know, you have rape, you have violations of all type, you have pandering, pimping. There are a lot of ways we can approach this to get a long sentence. The hard
For that, I really have something to raise. For that, I really have some credit to give China because of their control, their cyber control, cyber policing or law enforcement that we would like to probably share with my good friend Opal Singleton, and also you, my dear audience, who I love so much, that I try every bit I can to bring information, me and my team, to the show to build up, the vigilance of it. So stay with us. After this short break, we'll be right back talking about how we can elevate our law enforcement, not only by means of framing the laws or framing the picture into the laws, whatever, but also to the fact that can we do the patrols, I mean virtually, enhance the patrol virtually. Stay with us, please. Hello, dear friends. Welcome back to the show, Jack Chow on the East West Show with G&E TV. Today, we are, for the second time, talking about the huge problem that we are facing, we Americans are facing, especially we Americans who happen to be somebody's parents are facing, that is human trafficking. With a wonderful book author, Opal Singleton, we are not only reading the book. Oh, by the way, where is it available?
Actually, it's available at millionkids.org, MILLION, millionkids.org. And it's also available at Amazon.com. Amazon.com. I got that all mixed up. But it's millionkids.org. If you want to support our work, that would be helpful. But it's the same price both places.
Very good, very good. I'm not trying to sell the book. I only recommend to my audience this is really a book worth your time. Right? It'll give you lots of number one, knowledge. Number two, tools. Knowledge to know, tools to deal with the problems like that. Okay, back to oh my God, I'm not even done half. I know. Not even 40. I'm not even 50% yet. Maybe 40. Okay, now. Just now in my office, when I was preparing my homework with my intern Sophie, she was sitting right in front of me. We're doing the email exchange from her computer to mine, right? And there was one document I requested. The title of the document is Unisex Names, trying to define which names are applied to girls and vice versa. Okay, and for 3 times, the mail was blocked. And then we discovered why. We're facing to face. We're using the system. We're in the network. And she's smart. She says, well, probably we should change the title. And she changed the title to gender-free or unigender or gender-free names, like that. And then I got it within half a second. That means in the system we're using some cyber controls. Works. Which exactly is the way that they apply in China. That's why I say I would give them some credit. In China, you see more child abductions on the street rather than this cyber grooming, in your term. You're talking about grooming of American teenagers, right? And the cyber grooming could not possibly happen in China, or even, I mean, at least it's harder to happen in China like that. Why don't we do that? Put some system, like they block my email, like the UNICEF, even the word sex, that they got picked up. So are we working towards that direction?
There's no will to do that here in the U.S. It's an interesting thing to find ourselves in this time in society, because basically no one really owns the internet. The United States developed it, but no one really owns it. And so there's this feeling that we've entered the age where we have to self-monitor, and it really is quite difficult to actually put all these controls on it. And quite frankly, that's not going to stop predators. I mean, it may diminish it somewhat in China, but if your children are playing video games that have chat rooms,
oh yes, video games,
they're going to get a predator, you know, and because predators live in video games. And so it's an interesting thing about the internet, because it's the only thing in our lifetime that nobody owns. I ask kids at school all the time when I talk to them, who owns the internet? Nobody, you know, or Bill Gates, they'll say. And I say, is it private? No. Well, then really, why are you sending a naked photo on it? Because, you know, think about the opportunity that we're giving our kids. We give them almost no restriction. Now, you can put filters on your phone, but quite frankly, you know, as you and I have talked, technology is changing. It is going to become nearly impossible for a parent to absolutely constantly restrict a child on the internet. I mean, we have all kinds of apps now where you don't even need a phone number. The one that is the biggest one is Kik, K-I-K, and it is the biggest website that kids are being recruited on. I want to share a study with your audience. I went into a large high school and I did a written survey of about 150 kids on there. 80% were on Kik, that's spelled K-I-K. 80% had received a message from a stranger on Kik. 50% of those people replied to that stranger willingly, and 3 went out and met a total stranger. And Kik has almost 400 million users now, and it's mostly kids. The reason they're on there is the thrill of meeting a stranger. So it's a whole new era out there. You can put all the restrictions on, but the reason I wrote my book, and the reason I really appreciate you talking about my book, is I want every parent and grandparent in America to read this book. They must change their dialogue. You know, it is important to say no to a child, absolutely. I mean, if
and easy to say just no.
Absolutely, right? And I'm absolutely for, you know, check your child's phone, you're paying for it. If you're seeing your child stand on a train track and there's a moving train, you're going to push your child off the way.
Yeah, you're
and
right.
A phone is no different. However, no is a very short sentence. And what I'm saying is, a parent has to recognize not only is this the first generation of kids who have not known the internet, they are the parents and the grandparents of that generation. And what a huge opportunity and a huge responsibility. And so it is really important to sit with your child and have dialogue with them. You know, show me, are you on Kik?
In other words, it's not only an education to kids.
That's right.
But also an education, maybe even a bigger education to parents. Because you're talking about under 18, they are still under the supervision of their parents, legally or even in reality.
And
am I right?
You know, Jack, you are so right.
Thank you.
On top of this, what's amazing is, think about this, your child is 11, 12, 13. Now most parents go, well, I don't want my child to be different than anybody else, so they will buy them one because everybody's doing it. But think
Which is
about
nothing
this.
wrong. Which
Well,
is nothing wrong.
Think about this. This child's, their little frontal lobe, their cognitive reasoning
You're
skills,
right.
they're not going to develop for another 4 or 5 years. And boys, it'll be another 6, 7 years. And then on top of it, they're hormonal. They're going through puberty.
Puberty, yes. You're
And
talking
so then we
about.
hand them a device, and there's over, the FBI says there are over, well, at least nearly 1 million predators online at any given time.
And
So we
also
give them a
there's a
device to reach
trend. The
them.
other day I heard about those kids that tends to be kind of mature at early age.
Yes.
The age are kind of getting lower and lower due to the whatever, estrogen,
Exposure.
not estrogen, I
Yeah.
don't know what the term of it, due to whatever the intake.
Yes.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Go ahead, please.
So what is happening is that we're lowering the age that we're giving them access, and yet we have a generation of parents that don't really understand how all this plays out.
Yeah, and the challenge is higher and
Yes.
higher.
Yes.
And the age limit of going mature is lower
Right.
and the lower.
Right.
In between, there's more and more provided.
Right.
That is also down to the bottom, to the very bottom, is just one thing for sure that you want your kid know that your parent offered something to you. Tell them at that very moment, this is a double-edged sword.
Right.
It might kill you,
Right.
right?
You know.
It benefits you to the most extent. It will
Right.
kill you to the most extent.
And that's
Am I
the
right?
point of the book, is that no is a very short sentence. Now, I'm for no, but the point is, set with your child. This is new to them, and it's new to you. Don't be afraid of
Oh,
that.
yeah, sure.
Set with
You're
your
right.
child and say, if they're playing a video game, especially you dads out there and grandpas, sit with your son and say, hey, show me your avatar. What's his name? What's that tattoo stand for? How did he get those points? Show me how you're winning. By the way, who are you talking to? Can I listen in on that? I want to get involved with you. Let me look at that phone that I bought you.
Yeah.
I want to see what apps are you on. Let's go on Million Kids Facebook page and see what apps our predators are using.
To get involved in their own language,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
To get involved, to apply your supervision in
Right.
a way that they can understand
Right.
by using their own languages,
Yeah.
right?
You just tell them, I care enough about you that
you're
we're
right.
going to do this together.
Opal, do you agree to me and to everybody, like average American Joes or Sues, whoever, when everybody is a user of the internet, though, do we call it more or less like a cyber morality issue?
Say that
It's a
again.
moral issue.
Oh, it is a cyber moral issue. And I just think that that's actually, that was the purpose of writing my book. That'll probably be a whole nother segment before
Yeah.
it's over, because quite frankly, this has put the concept of morality in a whole new light.
You're right.
You know, one of the things that kids will tell you is what they think they do on the internet doesn't count because it's not real. And it's a fascinating thing, because they will tell you that sex on the internet isn't really sex. There are some video games, and we can get into this later, but there are some video games where you pay real money to have cyber sex with a cyber prostitute. You're paying real, your son, your 13-year-old
you're
son
right,
is
you're right.
paying real money to have cyber sex, and when they're through, they kill her. And so then I'll say to them, don't you feel bad? Now it's just a game. And I'm saying, well, wait a minute here, because, and they're telling me, well, sex isn't sex, but I'm saying, really? Then how come you're addicted to it? Because one of the things, especially if you have a kid that is 11, 12, 13 going through that hormonal change, and they're playing video games that have sex on them all the time, you should watch the number of hours they're playing, because they get addicted to it.
Yeah.
You see it's cyber sex, and so you say to yourself, well, it's not real. Except you say to yourself, well, why don't we go 5 days without playing it then? Are you crazy? They'll say, this is mine.
Okay, very good.
And they
very
get
good.
addicted.
Very good. And I can't help thinking, back to the jungle time, when human beings were at a point of male, female, all mixed.
Right.
Anybody can jump on anybody any moment. And now we're into the society, man, woman, they even are together. There is always a line there. You'll know which to cross, which not to cross.
Right.
Why? Because we are developed into modern society.
Right.
Now, can we say the cybernet is like a jungle?
It is.
It's a jungle.
It's a jungle with no rules. And so what happens is when our kids don't know there are rules, once they cross over, they still get violated, and they experience that exploitation. And they're saying to themselves, well, you know, nobody told me that this could happen. Well, we are telling you that it can happen.
With the calls you made and with the calls we're making here together, we want to make sure that the jungle time will not take 5 million years to develop. So maybe 5 years, maybe five months, whatever. We don't know, but we want that development to happen faster. My dear audience, we're over time already. With my good friend, Opal Singleton. She, the wonderful writer of this book. By the way, we need to take one more look at this beautiful book. And by the way, better off, I have her autograph.
I sign them all if they buy them from me and kids.
So we are sharing her thoughts, and which is the awareness of the picture that we are looking at about our kids, American kids, who holds our future in their hands, are being abducted in a cyber way, right? So, and they are going into somewhere which, well, I'll call it a point of no return, whatever. Once you're in, you're done. Your life is done. So talking about sexploitation, such a difficult word. And well, we thank you very much for watching. And to you, especially when you happen to be somebody's parents though, I especially thank you for watching this show. I believe that gives you a wake-up call. And to Opal, I thank you very much. And I know this is the second show, and not the last one, so I may still have to call you depending on the response that I receive from my audiences, all right?
Oh, I'll come back in a heartbeat. There's new technology coming out that we really must cover in the next show.
Very good, all right, sir. Thank you very much.